James Gunn doesn't understand Superman, or at least this is what a growing group of fans say in response to the growing amount of promotional material, including trailers and clips that they've seen of the new Superman movie run by James Gunn. And while they've experienced a good deal of pushback based upon this, of course, some people really believe that this is the perfect version of Superman, that James Gunn understands Superman perfectly. I don't think that their criticisms have properly been addressed or even properly been identified. In this video, I want to identify their criticisms, which boil down to three main reasons, and understand exactly why they believe that James Gunn doesn't understand Superman. The number one criticism that people mention when it comes to this Superman is they mention the fact that they believe that the humor is off. They don't like this version of Superman's humor. Now, the defenders of this version of Superman will claim that, well, Superman has always used humor, and they're correct about that. Superman has always used humor. And the detractors will respond back that this is not Superman type humor. And what do they mean by that? Well, the difference is that James Gunn has a very unique type of humor, a more frat boy type of humor, almost more realistic sort of humor, as shown in this scene right here.
Hey! Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
In comparison, usual Supermans have a very different type of humor. It's usually a quick one-line sentence that kind of has a little bit of ironic and interesting humor to it, but it never is a more frat boy type of humor as you saw right there. Just to give an example.
Isn't this a school night, young lady?
Now, of course, this is merely just a single line from this version of Superman, and he could definitely show this other type of humor within the movie at the same time, but I think that for a lot of the fans, a lot of these detractors, they believe that this is a sign of more humor to come. They just don't like that. They don't have to think that James Gunn's style of wacky humor is basically what they want. It doesn't really fit Superman, and this only goes further when you look into the second point.
Reason number two is about the James Gunn's wacky world. James Gunn loves to look at the wackier and weirder elements of comics and try to portray them on the big screen. We see this with Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, where he takes the weirdest and most wacky elements and he blows them out of proportion, makes them even weirder and wackier. For example, Rocket Raccoon was a talking raccoon within Guardians of the Galaxy. Groot is a talking tree within Guardians of the Galaxy, and he really goes all out in making those elements of their character super huge. Making all types of jokes about it, so on and so forth, even though those were but were rarely a major part of their character. He takes a single weird part about the character and he makes it a big part of their character. And they feel like with Superman that he's going to do the same exact thing. He's going to take certain weirder elements of Superman's character and make them out to be the biggest elements. We see this with the idea of Crypto, the Superdog, a really weird, obscure idea that was put into the comics. As we all know, comics have all these weird and obscure, really crazy ideas that they put in there. But Crypto Superdog is a character that a lot of these guys didn't really want to see. They didn't feel like he was the realistic part of Superman. They feel like he was a weird part that should be brushed on, basically swept under the rug. And unfortunately, instead of doing that, James Gunn is going to put that front and center. So he's going to put a lot of the weirder parts of Superman front and center, which makes a lot of these fans feel like that he doesn't understand the character. And instead of focusing on some of the greater parts of the character, he's going to focus on only the weirdest and wackiest points and make him out to be this weird, wacky, alien, rather than being the symbol of hope and justice that he's supposed to be. And I don't feel like this fear is completely unfounded. Again, there's plenty of evidence to say that he might do that, but at the same time, James Gunn has also done a good job of portraying the heart and the beauty of human life and the beauty of human friendship. So I don't believe that he's going to destroy all the parts of the character, but I do believe that there's going to be some wackier bits that may make a couple of the more serious Superman fans a little bit unhappy with the overall product, which is fair. Again, I'm a Thor fan. We went over this with Ragnarok, where Taika Waititi did a similar thing, going over the weirder and wackier elements of Thor and completely destroyed the character. I have a video about that coming up. I'll probably link it in the description. But that is a legitimate fear that I feel like these fans can have, and to simply try to say that that's not going to happen is kind of crazy in and of itself. You're kind of gaslighting them when in reality they've seen this happen multiple times to other characters. But that's only the second reason, which is pretty big and clear. But there's a third reason that I think is a deeper reason that they keep on talking about, which is about Superman's more emotional side. Superman and Superman type characters, whether it be Paragon of Virtue characters, Captain America and All Might, are great examples of this. Superman has this idea for a lot of fans of being a very stoic character, of being a character that doesn't necessarily show his emotions on a massive level. His emotions that he shows are mostly good emotions, happy emotions. He might have anger, but it's going to be righteous anger. He's not someone who's going to just simply yell at people. That whole scene that people really didn't like was the whole people are going to die scene, where he just kind of screamed that out. And a lot of fans really thought that was a terrible thing for him to do because it doesn't fit the stoic version. After all, you can't really see Captain America doing it in that similar type of way. He would be angry in that way, but he would handle it with a certain amount of gravitas that would make it seem like it wouldn't feel like kiddish almost. Like it felt like in that scene that Superman was really losing his temper and was kind of almost screaming. The way that the scene was shot and portrayed, it didn't make Superman look out to be this paragon of virtue that people want him to be. And that's also a big split in the Superman fan base in general. There's a bit of the fan base that really wants him to be that farm boy from Kansas, to be this guy who's a really deep and flawed character. But there are also another group of the fan base that really wants him to be the paragon of virtue. They want him to be the All Might. They want him to be the Captain America, this guy who is fighting against a world that is not, with him in lockstep with his virtues, but he's still going to be the virtuous hero regardless. He's going to be the shining light guiding humanity through the darkness, regardless of whether or not humanity is actually like that. He is the best of us, essentially. And I think that idea is being challenged right now. You have one group that believes that Superman should be human completely and utterly, another group that believes he should be the best of humanity. And these two, I think there's a bit of a middle ground here that can be found there. I don't know exactly how you would find it, but I hope that James Gunn can find it, although James Gunn does seem to be, at the moment, being much more, at least the promotional material, showing much more of the more purely human side. So instead of seeing this stoic paragon of virtue who is going to keep his emotions in check, who is going to, even if he gets angry, be it in a righteous anger sort of way, you're instead going to have a much more emotional, a much more unrestrained Superman, which again could work if it's the early version of Superman. I can see that working possibly, but I don't think that's what people want to see right now. People have already seen All Might. They saw Captain America. They saw it can be done. So for them, they want to see that. And that combined with the other two things is not a good sign way they look at it. So there you have it. You have these fans who don't like these three parts. They don't like the fact that James Gunn may make the character even more wacky, may put a spotlight on his wackier elements. They don't like the fact that this Superman is probably going to be a little bit more emotional and much less stoic than previous versions have shown to be. They don't like the fact that this humor that he's going to have, instead of it being the more witty and intelligent humor, it may be a more human and more working class almost humor. Not even working class, to be honest. It's more just almost like frat boy humor. They don't like that. And while again you can try to debate these things, these are legitimate problems with the character with the version of the character that these guys have. These guys believe in a more aspirational Superman, a more Sir Galahad version of Superman. As I said before, Captain America and All Might are great examples of this character, and this Superman doesn't really match up to those guys. Now, he may fight against these other things. He may end up being a hero. I think that James Gunn is very good at making heroes, but when it comes to making a paragon of virtue like Superman, I'm not certain he can do that and the same way. And these fans, to this is all evidence that he can't do this. They have seen what they've seen from the promotional material, and it doesn't look like he's going to be like that. And James Gunn himself has talked about this. He talked about how he may not be able to understand the version of Superman, and it was very hard for him to get to until he looked at it from a certain angle. So it may be the fact that James Gunn's Superman is not their Superman. It is not the Superman that they want to see. And whether or not their Superman is the main Superman, that's another story, that's another idea, another video topic. But for this video, I think those three main reasons are why, for them, James Gunn simply doesn't understand Superman. Anyway, that's the video. Like and subscribe for further content. I want to thank you all for going on me with this superhero journey, this YouTube journey, as we go and get to more and more subscribers and more views, and we can talk about comics on a more interesting and deeper level. And I want to thank you all for being that. Anyone who likes, comments, subscribes, anyone who watched the video, who even doesn't like the video, all those people, you all appreciate it. I love you guys all very much. So I want to thank you for that. And I'll see you guys in another video. Until then, stay ferocious.